This is the Blind Grilling Experience, and I am the most interesting griller in the world. Hello and welcome back to the Blind Grilling Experience. My name is Chris Peltz, and joining me again is Mr. John Grimes. Fella, how are you doing today, the week after Father's Day weekend? You doing all right, man?
Doing well, Chris. Yep. Great
Awesome.
to be here again with the most interesting griller in the world. How was your Father's Day?
Yeah, it was good. Because all the women in my life are in food industry, and so they were pretty busy working. So it was nice and relaxing, which was good. So I enjoyed that. Of course, you know, you've got your family who aren't quite in the get out of the house and away from daddy stage just yet. So hopefully you enjoyed your time with family, and I understand you got a little something to talk about.
Yeah, I did. Somebody must have been listening.
That's
I got
right.
the expander kit
Sweet.
for my egg. So
Awesome.
I'm cooking on 3 levels now.
Oh, wow. Man,
So
that
look
is
at me.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fancy.
Man.
I also got the Half Moon griddle, cast iron griddle thing
Yeah. Sweet.
to go with it. So
Right?
yeah,
Sweet. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And you've already put it to use?
of course. Yeah.
What'd you
We
do?
had some, we had cooked some brats and hamburgers a couple days ago. Cooked them at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
12 hamburgers and 5 brats. All
Okay.
fit on the large big green egg, courtesy of the main level and the top rack.
What'd you have on the top rack?
The brats.
The brats? Yeah.
So I cook, of course, on a skewer, as blind
Right.
grilling has taught me so well. So 5 of them on a skewer. I think I probably could have fit 10. I just didn't. I only had 5. I got to test that out. But the 12 slider burgers were inside the Weber basket, which takes up most of the room on the main level. So
you were still able to use the fish basket by Weber for your burgers under the top rack, so on the main level still?
yeah, I had to put it
Awesome.
in a different direction.
Right, right.
On the way it fit before, which was really nice, the handles of the Weber basket hooked into the handles of the basket. I had the basket.
Yeah,
I already
the
had
plate setter basket.
the plate
yeah.
setter basket. So the handles on that fit directly
Perfectly, yeah.
onto the Weber basket. So I always knew where it was because I could position it based on that. But because of the legs on the expander, I had to put it in the opposite way.
Gotcha.
Turn
Turn it 90 degrees and slide it in.
It fit fine.
Yeah.
It was just
Okay.
different, and there wasn't I had to flip them. I do flip them because I cook them direct heat.
Yeah.
So I do flip them, and so to flip them, I had to pull the thing all the way out, which I don't normally do. Normally, I would just flip it inside over the grill. But because of the brats on top, I had to pull the basket all the way out. It wasn't a problem. It was just different. So
And just use your gloves and pull it out and flip it over and slide it back in.
it was very easy. I
That's
cooked
awesome.
them all. I usually cook them for like 25 minutes, both. So what took me 50 minutes before took me 25 minutes this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So hip hip hooray.
Yeah, man. That's great. Well, congratulations and on that new little toy to mess with, and that's sweet. Any upcoming cooks this weekend? or-
Looks like I've got 2 pork tenderloins in the freezer.
Okay. Man.
And
yeah.
talked to a friend of mine today that also had a pork tenderloin, and it was off. We weren't even talking about grilling. He just wanted to know what I was doing, and I was talking to him. He says, "I think I'm going to cook the pork tenderloin this week." I said, I got 2 of those in the freezer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should do that too. So
Yeah. Yeah,
having
and of
pork
course
tenderloin.
the tenderloin is, man, it cooks fast. First of all,
Very fast.
but good eating, especially if you don't overcook it. A lot of folks will take the huge pork loin, and that's usually what they dry out more than anything. They overcook that, but man, that tenderloin is just tenderloin on anything.
Yeah.
Whether it's beef, pig, venison, whatever it is, that's awesome. So, yeah, I did a reverse sear on some ribeyes and some sirloin last night. In fact, I posted a quick little video on the YouTube channel over at youtube.com/blind grilling. And so there is a video posted today, in fact, of the just a quick little thing in the middle of it. It wasn't a how-to. It was just here's what I was doing, and showed pulling the ribeyes off the flat top griddle, but then taking the sirloin from the egg after slow smoking it and then searing it on the flat top. So quick little video that was posted on their YouTube channel today, and it was that was fun. It's not very often nowadays that I have someone here to video, and so it was kind of a last minute thing. We didn't mic up or anything like that. So, but it was fun. We ate good anyway. I mean, they turned out amazing. There is, and I've got some plans for that too. And I'm probably going to do a show on leftovers because there's so many awesome ideas. And, I got a daughter who's wanting to get, she's kind of preparing herself for college right now. And, even though for her, it's a couple years away still, but, she loves ramen. And so one day I was like, man, I haven't had ramen in 20 years or more. And so I was going to make some ramen noodles, and I was like, man, I got some leftover steak and some sauteed onions and mushrooms. And so I just took and threw that in. Once those noodles were cooked, I threw that steak and onions and mushrooms in, and he brought it up, and oh man, that was the best ramen I have ever eaten. It was amazing.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. So just little things like that, you work with what you got, but, and sometimes what you got is pretty good. So
sometimes sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'll be hanging out at your house more often.
So yeah, we even did a pizza, and I posted some pictures on Instagram and maybe a few other places, but we did some pizzas Monday night on the grill, and I made I call it a Hawaiian just because I used prosciutto and pineapple, but for the sauce I used a sweet Thai chili sauce, and oh man, it turned out so good. And so with that, that was awesome. I'm probably going to do a full-blown video on that. I'm going to do that again because that turned out awesome, and I had a lot of people asking about what all we put on it and the sauce that we use. So it turned out great. So that was awesome. So it's been good. It's been, really getting back in the swing of things. The weather has been unbelievably nice and beautiful. And so it's really been great, firing up the egg and throwing stuff on and cooking for sure. And I think tomorrow I've got some red rock shrimp, at least some royal red shrimp. That's what it is. Some royal red shrimp and some scallops. And who knows? Maybe I'll do a video on that too, and at least on the scallops, because I do want to do.
How many nights a week do you think you cook on the grill, on average?
Of course, if you don't take into account, from the beginning of the year, with the accident and breaking my arms and stuff, before that and picking up now, I would say 3 to 4, at least. Sometimes more, but yeah, 3 to 4 days a week we've got the egg fired up. So
yeah, you're a rock star.
It's well, and here's I say the weather's been nice,
and that's for you. That's just for your eating, not catering or.
That does not count any catering or anything that we do in that respect. But here's the thing, like today was 88 degrees, which is awesome because it wasn't 90. So that's good. But you turn on an oven in our house and it gets hot. And so if we can take the opportunity to fire up the egg and keep things outside and do everything outside and not have the oven or stovetop going in the house, it just keeps things cooler and much nicer. And so we, it's an older home, and so that's if we can avoid getting that kitchen so hot, then we try to, and the egg's the perfect way to do it, for sure.
Well, you and I have a little different lifestyles with our family situations, but I'd be lucky to do twice a week. It's not because I don't want to. Yeah. It's just because it just doesn't always work out with the timing and the energy that I have by the end of the day and all those kind of things. But it's at least once a week, but sometimes it's twice, maybe on a long weekend or something. But
it'll pick up.
I know it will. I know, but it's you are definitely the grilling expert here. I am just along for the ride and learning as I go.
Well, I appreciate that, but yeah, I mean, it's I've learned from you. I mean, in all of this, I mean, there are things that, and that's the awesome thing just about cooking in general, because we're going to talk about ribs today. We're going to get into how we are cooking our ribs, and even after what because the first cook you ever did on your egg, when we delivered the package to you, and you got to have the blind grilling experience, the first cook we did was ribs and baby back ribs, and you've taken that and you didn't just stick with what we showed you. I mean, you've changed a few things, which is awesome. Not necessarily the temperature or the timing as much, but a few other things you've tweaked to make it your own and make the flavors work for you and what you want. And so, which is awesome. That's what it's about right there, because a lot of what I try to do is lay groundwork so that folks can take that and then build on it and make it their own, which is really what barbecue and grilling is. Which is why the competitions are so subjective on, a lot of times on who wins, who doesn't win, based on taste, texture, flavor, all of those things, because people are making them their own. In backyard barbecue, man, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's where it's at for sure. Yeah. So let's talk about ribs and what we do. Before that, though, let's very quickly get in a word from one of our partners. And today we're going to be talking about Kick Ash Basket. That's right, kickashbasket.com. Shake that ash and light that fire. Folks, get ready to clean up in your grill just 100 times better, 100 times easier. Not only for charcoal management, fire management, airflow in your grill, but also for cleaning it up. They have got the products for you. I'm telling you, not just for Camadoo grills, not just for the Big Green Egg and the Camadoo Joe and the Primos and the Vision, but man, they've got it for Weber. They've got it for the PK grills. They've got charcoal management baskets for the type of grill more than likely that you're using. So check them out. They also have heat-resistant gloves. They sell the J.J. George grill torch, which both John and I absolutely love and use every time we're firing up our grill. So go and check out kickashbasket.com. All right, John, so let's talk about this rib cook, because there's a lot of folks out there that are, they're wondering, what is the best method? And that's a question I want to address, because it's really the wrong question to ask. And the reason I say that is there are different methods. There are great methods. There are good methods. The method that works best for you is the best method. Whether it's what we do or whether it's what someone else is doing or what you're already doing, if that's what you like, that's what you enjoy, and you love the results, then you're doing the best method. But there may be different methods, there may be easier methods, there may be more time-consuming, or there may be some time-saving methods, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about as well. But we would encourage you to give this a shot, because it's not the 3-2-1. And a lot of folks have that question. I don't know, John, if you want to elaborate a little bit on the numbering system of rib cooks.
I don't know much about it because I just know this technique. That's all I've ever used. I'm sure that the 3-2-1 and the 2-1-1-1 and the 4-1-1 and the 9-1-1 and all those things. I'm sure that those all have a place, and they're probably all great. But I've this came up because when you and I were talking, I've talked to a couple of friends of mine who are recently were cooking ribs, and I was just in conversation talking to them, and they don't have big green eggs; they have different grills, which obviously is fine. And I was asking them what their techniques were, and they were telling me, and I shared with one of them what the blind grilling experience technique was, and he was a little skeptical at first because it was different than what he had done before, somewhat radically different as far as the time goes. And I was talking to him on like I think it was probably a Friday night. He was going to cook them Saturday, and I got a text from him on Saturday that said, "I ain't ever going back to the other way. This is how to cook ribs." And he was not able to tell a difference between how he had done it. And I don't know exactly, I don't remember, but he was definitely like in the 5-hour range.
Right.
Whatever the combination was of wrapping and unwrapping and all that stuff. And so, he just gained a couple hours of his life back.
Yeah.
And couldn't tell a difference in the end result that would necessitate him spending another 2 hours on cooking those ribs. So
right. So very quickly, let me just explain to our listeners who may not know, because there are some that don't, and I see this question.
There are many that don't, because the people that I talk to, I've converted 2 of the 3 people I've talked to, and they had never heard of it before. And the third person, I haven't had to. I just asked what their method was. They didn't ask what mine was. So I'm going to encourage them to listen to this.
Right. Absolutely.
Episode to find out. But go ahead.
Yeah. So 3-2-1. And in the numbering method, right? So 3-2-1, 3-1-1, 2-1-1, all of that refers to cooking your ribs for 3-2-1, for example, 3 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped. All right. And then there's certain things that you do, as far as, when you wrap them and then when you unwrap them to set the glaze. And so whether you do it unwrapped for 3 or 2 hours, then you wrap them, you do it for 1 or 2 hours, then you unwrap them and do them for another hour. So that however many hours you're doing it unwrapped, wrapped, and then unwrapped again, that's the numbering system. So 3-2-1, is 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, or 3-1-1, 2-1-1. So everyone has made some adjustments, but usually they'll try to explain their method with the numbering system, which is great. I mean, it's once you understand that you're talking about the number of hours, unwrapped, wrapped, and unwrapped, then it makes sense. It's an easy way to explain it. We don't really use numbers for what we do. We just kind of tell them what to do, and usually, like you said, they're very skeptical. They kind of shake their head because we're talking about between 2 and 2.5 hours to cook, baby back ribs total. I mean, total. That's it, right?
Yeah, and it's so simple. There's really only wrapped and unwrapped. There's not 3 ways, or
right.
You're not going back and forth 3 times. So it's so simple.
It really
simple.
is, yeah. And
I like simple. I'm not a
exactly.
I don't have a big brain. So
yeah. No. Well, and to in all fairness, I got this method from someone else, obviously, all right, because I'm not smart enough to do this on my own. But I actually went to a rib class for a guy who was doing competition ribs and winning, but he was cooking on drum smokers. So he was using a Gateway drum smoker. And I went up to Pits and Grills here in Springfield, who was hosting the class. And this guy was doing this rib cook, and he was talking about how the drum smoker, but he was making statements like, this is the only smoker you can do the hot and fast cooks on. And of course, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, to be honest with you. But I tasted the ribs, and they were awesome. They really were great. And so I thought, but I can do this on the egg. I know I can. Because other than the shape of the drum as opposed to the egg, there's so many things that are so similar, and that I can kind of emulate or copy to the egg. And so that's what I was going to do. And I was in the middle of actually going through that process when I called a guy in Georgia who is the owner of 441 South Barbecue. And so here I am talking to Kevin Ward, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. This is what this guy said about drums. You can't do it on an egg. And so I'm going to do this hot and fast cook. And he's like, that's what I do. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, that's what I do. And he went through and actually helped me a little bit more, with this. And so we do this hot and fast method in essence. But the results, I'll put them up against really anybody else's ribs. And not that others aren't good. They are. It's just, it depends on what you want to do, and I think, John, in conversations in the past, you and I have talked about this. There are people that want to go and sit out in their backyard and at their grill or smoker for 5 or 6 hours. That's what they want to do. And they want something that's going to take 5 or 6 hours to cook. They plan that. They love that, and that's fine. But you come home, maybe you get off a little early, you get home and you're like, man, I would love to have ribs, but it takes 5 or 6 hours. No, it don't. You can do it a lot quicker. You can do it in just as good, if not better, with this method. And so here it is, very simply. 300 degrees is what we get our eggs set to. Just 300 degrees indirect. So the plate setter is in, and we're cooking at 300 degrees is our set.
Flame Boss is in control of things.
That's right. Yep. Flame Boss keeps it steady, and cruise control for your grill. And so we get the Flame Boss hooked up, and I don't know, I know when we delivered the package, we kind of explained where you can put your probes. I run my probe up through the top, down on the back of the big green egg thermometer inside the dome. I don't know if you're still doing that or if you're putting it on the grate. Yeah. So that's what I do. And so we get that egg going, and the Flame Boss setting that egg steady at 300 degrees. We season up our ribs however you want to do it. We will remove the membrane, which is not a difficult process. I know a lot of folks get frustrated with it, but here are John and I both blind, can't see, and with what we're doing, trying to remove a membrane, but yet we can do it. And we can do it in a matter of a minute or two at the most. It's real simple. Do you use a butter knife or back of a spoon? What do you use, John?
I use a butter knife.
Just a butter knife. So you just take and slide it up, start with one of the bones, meat side down on the ribs, the membrane, facing up, find a bone. You probably go from one end, 2 or 3 bones from one end or so. Slide it under the membrane, and then use a paper towel. And that paper towel allows you to grab hold of that membrane, and you can pull it off. Sometimes it'll tear. Sometimes you have some stragglers there, but a lot of times it just comes right off, and it's very simple and worth the time to do it. So that's one thing I would encourage folks to do is take
just
the time.
practicing with it a few times after. I mean, after you get it down, do it a few times, you'll become a master, and I don't think you would ever go back to not pulling off the membrane.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not that difficult.
And if you're worried about whether or not you got it, if you're blind or visually impaired and you're wondering, well, did I get it all? Is there any left? Go ahead and score between those bones so that seasoning that you put on that backside will kind of get and penetrate into the meat. And that's a lot of folks who don't remove the membrane will at least score the back with a knife so that some of their seasoning will kind of penetrate the membrane and get into the meat. So at the very least do that. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, by all means. But it's worth doing. It absolutely is worth doing. And it and plus the time we're saving you with this method of cooking ribs, you're still not losing anything by taking the time to remove the membrane. So definitely encourage you to do that. So, John, you make your own rub. So you've got just like a salt, pepper, garlic base.
Salt,
with
pepper, garlic, paprika, maybe some garlic powder, onion powder if I ever have it. I kind of mimic the great Aaron Franklin down here in Texas. That's
right.
At least that's what he says he does with ribs, and I like that. I do deviate that to make it my own and add, if it's depending upon who's eating the ribs, I prefer hot and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So I will put cayenne in the rub, and then a little bit later I'll put honey in when I wrap it.
Yeah,
which makes them hot and sweet for me. But if somebody else that doesn't like hot is eating, then I just omit that and do the normal thing.
Yeah.
But
do you use any
I kind of like to
binder?
make my own.
A lot of guys mustard.
I'll use
and
olive
stuff.
oil.
Just some olive. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of mustard. I've never tried mustard.
Yeah, I don't use it personally, but
I have a mild olive oil.
Yeah.
That I use, and
I use grapeseed oil. So
okay.
Yeah. So but anything like that works. Whether it's an olive oil, a grapeseed oil, or you'll hear about a lot of guys using mustard. But get your favorite rub. 441 South makes an awesome rib rub. Sweet Uncle T's Game Changer is the name of their rub that I love on ribs. And so get them seasoned up really well. The egg's sitting at 300, and put them on the egg meat side up. So bone side down, lay them flat with the meat side up, straight on the grate, indirect cook, 300 degrees, close the egg. Now, and this is what I do. I once I close that egg, I'll set a timer for an hour to an hour and 10 minutes max, and that's it. Now, you go with that same time frame, but you've added a little something there.
I do spritz mine with apple cider vinegar about every 15 or 20 minutes.
So 3 or 4 times.
Quick open, about, I guess it depends on how many racks are in there, but about 4 or 5 sprays per rack, and close it back up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you spritz yours with the apple cider vinegar. I don't bother with it personally. Again, it's one of those things where we're able to make this our own. Even though we're sticking with this a routine as far as timing and temperature is concerned, we're getting the flavor and the taste that we want. So for an hour to an hour and 10 minutes with the meat side up, bone side down, they're on the grate, they're cooking. Once that hour to an hour and 10 minutes is up, we'll get our aluminum foil, and that's where we do some prep there with the aluminum foil. I'll put down about a half a stick of butter, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, some more of the Uncle T's seasoning, and maybe a little honey or even some peach habanero sauce from Cosmos Q or something. Just a little bit of moisture in there, and then I'll take those ribs and I'll put them meat side down on top of what I just put on that foil, and then I'll wrap them as tight as I can. Again, John, you do a little something different with your wrap as far as what you put on the foil and what you put the ribs on.
Yeah, the wrapping technique is the same, but dairy doesn't like me as much as I like dairy, my body. So I use olive oil in there for a fat, and then again, if they're cooking the way I want them to, I put a bunch of honey in there.
Yeah.
But if not, I'll put barbecue sauce of some sort. The preferred one around here is there's a rib joint in Memphis, Tennessee called the Rendezvous.
If
you're familiar.
Yeah.
So we like Rendezvous's barbecue sauce.
Okay.
But I also use Stubbs, or I've used some 441 stuff and Lane's barbecue sauces too.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
those are good stuff too.
Right.
So I'll put a little bit of olive oil and then whatever the other, either honey or barbecue sauce,
right,
and then wrap them up.
Yep. So when you're putting this down, just so like a picture for those who may be blind or visually impaired, what we're doing You got your aluminum foil laid out flat, and then almost, picturing where you're going to lay your ribs, just so kind of in a line. You're putting your butter or your oil, like your fat, your sweetness, and then your seasoning for the heat, or maybe a little bit of sauce, kind of making a line with that, just kind of building that layers up. And then you take those ribs and you put them meat side down on top of what you just put on the foil, and then you wrap it up as tight as you possibly can, and then stick that rack of ribs right back on the grill, meat side down. All right. So now you've gone from meat side up to meat side down, back on the grill, and you close it up. You close the grill up, and then you let it go at 300 degrees for another hour to an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes max. And that's it. You can let them rest, you can pull them off. And so you're looking at 2 to 2 hours and 20 to 2 hours and 30 minutes max on this cook. And my experience is every time you can grab that bone and it slides right out of those ribs. It's not mushy. It's not just, I don't like mush when I go to eat ribs, right? I want a little bit of bite, a little bit of texture, but I don't want to have to chew it, like a steak. That's not what it's made for, what it's meant to be. But you can just pull that bone right out, and just tender, juicy, sweet. It's just awesome. If you feel like you want to have that sauce kind of set a little more, you can open up that foil for the last 10 minutes or so, and that's really all it takes, and that glaze will set a little bit nicer if that's what you want. But that doesn't have to extend the time any, right? So after an hour cooking wrapped, just unwrap it and let it go another 10 minutes, 15 max, and then you're still within that 2 hours and 30 minutes, and the ribs are amazing. They are so good, so tender, that it's hard to go back to cooking ribs for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, I don't. Again, nothing wrong with that technique, the 5 or 6 hour technique. It's just I've never done it that way, and now that based on everything I've heard and from the people I've talked to about it, this way works just as well, and takes less time. So I'm all about that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I hope folks will give it a try. I mean, I think, if you're looking for a way to cook ribs and, you've got 2 to 2.5 hours of time, but maybe you don't have 4 to 5 hours of time, it's doable. I promise you, you'll enjoy it. And if you don't, let me know and I'll come and eat them.
Yeah.
So, that's, I am confident enough, to tell everyone that I know that this is how we do it. I've won 2 egg fests, with this method on ribs. And granted, we cooked a lot of other stuff too, but folks were always coming back, for the ribs as well, because they turn out so well. And they're great for egg fest because, you can start your cook early. And, say they're going to open the gates at 10 or 11 o'clock. You fire up your grill at 8 o'clock. You get the ribs on. They can be done for that first wave of people. And they'll be like, oh, wow, you must have started these like super early or last night or something. You're like, no, we cooked them this morning just before you came in. And kind of go through the process, and they're just shocked. They're amazed at what they're tasting in the time that it took to get it there. And so now, John, you were saying you've never done them any other way.
No.
So, that's
either fortunately or unfortunately.
Yeah. Right. But you've eaten ribs other places that other people have cooked at restaurants or whatever. I mean, is there, what would you say? I mean, here you are, you've been doing it yourself for 2 years now.
I mean, in 2 years, I've probably cooked, at least a couple dozen racks of ribs, and I would put Chili's, for crying out loud, the baby back ribs.
Oh yeah.
I like mine.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's nice to go somewhere and just eat them, because then you'd have to do anything. So there's something to be said about that. But
sure.
Just as far as the end results, and do I like them more or less than a restaurant or barbecue place. I like mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that those are bad, but at least I can control all the elements of the cook, so I know exactly what went in them and how they were cooked and all that, and where the meat came from. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that yeah, I think the Chris Peltz blind grilling experience method of cooking ribs is tremendous.
Yeah.
And that, not to get too far off a topic here, but it is still rib related. Do other types of ribs, at least pork ribs, like St. Louis style, you cook them the same way?
The St. Louis style, but I don't do spare ribs. Spare ribs take a lot longer. They will. I'll add a lot of time, but I don't do a lot of spare ribs. I don't like spare ribs, to be
I don't
honest
know
with
what
you.
spare ribs are.
They
To be more honest with you.
Yeah, sure. No, so spare ribs are they start out narrow at one end and they get really wide, almost, I kind of picture like a catfish, with a big old head at one end, and then kind of narrowing down at at the body, and so that's kind of how I would describe spare ribs. Still flat, but they're super wide at one end, and there is a lot more meat for sure, and so the time frame is a little bit longer on that. You could probably add another hour, when you're doing them at 300, but I don't know. I've just not really been impressed with spare ribs anywhere. And so I'll stick with the baby back, St. Louis style ribs. And if I'm going to do ribs, that's what I'm going to cook. Now there are country style ribs or Western style ribs, which are actually a little bit more related to the loin than anything else. They're very large cuts. Usually there's a bone that runs through the center on some of them, but they are almost like a huge brat kind of feeling. As far as size is concerned, like a large brat is what they feel like. They're each individual ones, and that I do a little different. I do those a little bit lower and slower, and probably a 4-hour cook. I'll do them 2 hours unwrapped and 2 hours wrapped. But they're more of a texture of a pork butt, Boston butt, kind of texture. And so I do a little bit longer cook on that.
Okay.
So
well, maybe that'll be another show.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but they're awesome. That's one of my wife's favorites is the country style ribs. So, that'd be something that you guys could try if you like the pork ribs. The country style ribs are definitely good, and they make for great sandwiches for sure. So,
let's talk about that another time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sure. So. So Father's Day is over. You got your convector, your expander. That's awesome. So you're cooking 2 levels. You've got a pork tenderloin planned. As you are feeling that expander, was there anything else kind of maybe that jumped out at you? Is like, there another idea? Maybe you're like, ooh, I can't wait to try this.
Well, I thought about ribs, of course.
Yeah.
So I would like to. And we're talking about ribs, so yeah, I need to cook some ribs. I want to get a good feeling for what I can expect on the top rack, as far as if I could put 1 or 2 racks up there. I feel like I probably can't fit 2 on the top shelf, but maybe I can. I just need to. Just try it
and see. Yeah.
See what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. If you do, man, I would strongly recommend putting some baked beans in a small pan and sliding them underneath those ribs, and let them catch the drippings. Mm-hmm. That's some good stuff there. Yeah. We enjoy doing that. So that's awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about the rib cook and the expander and all of that. That's awesome. And I know we've got some other cooks that we definitely want to talk about. We'll be getting into in the future. And it's always good, man. I'm glad you were able to come on and join the conversation. Talk about ribs, the egg, and the expander, and Yeah, glad your family's listening, man, hearing what you want.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing it again soon. So
Yeah.
I hope to be back.
Well, yeah, you will be, no doubt about it. I always love having you. All right, folks, be sure and check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/blindgrilling. Check out our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/blindgrilling. You can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, all at Blind Grilling. And, of course, our podcast, Blind Grilling Experience. We are on all the major platforms that we are aware of anyway. We're now on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're trying to cover the bases. If there's one that you have found that we're not on, let us know. We'll do our best to get on there as well. But certainly appreciate everybody subscribing, emailing, and letting us know what you think of the podcast. We really do appreciate it. And of course, as always, remember, if you're looking, you ain't cooking.